Today's webinar is titled Strengthen the Human Firewall and Protect Your Information with KnowBe4. So obviously this is going to be a little bit of introduction into the human firewall, what exactly it means, and then with a lot of focus on KnowBe4, where we'll have a demo, which is a platform that we use for information security awareness. So just a brief introduction on who Sentinel Africa is, but then before that, my name is Faith Mweni. I'll be the moderator today. And yes, so now introducing Sentinel Africa. So we are a risk-based risk consulting company based primarily here in Nairobi, Kenya, but with operations across Africa. And we endeavor to understand, tailor, and embed solutions to our clients so that they can, in our bid to enforce a strong and mature information security postures with our clients that we interact with. Okay, so here is our footprint. So as you can see, as I mentioned, we are headquartered here in Nairobi, but our operations are largely spread across the continent in Africa. And what you can see below here are some of the clients that we have worked with and the countries that we have operations in. That includes Africa as well as the Middle East now. In our interactions with clients, we have come across very many themes, repeating themes that affect any organization's information security posture. And we have picked one of those themes, which is information security awareness, whereby you're not only looking at the technology and the processes behind all these things, you're interested in the people themselves. So our theme today is really focusing on the people aspect of information security, where we are going to be talking about what are some of the practices for information security, what are some of the things that we are seeing here with regards to information security awareness, and how can we then improve our information security posture. Okay, and our speaker today is Abdirahman Mohamed. Abdirahman is a colleague of mine and is an InfoSec consultant. He's really big on information security. He's obsessed with it. That's what he says about himself. And apart from that, he's also a soccer fan. Professionally, he's an information security consultant, majorly involved with projects to do with internal and external security assessments, information security audits, and then also implementation of security awareness programs for organizations. He holds a Bachelor's of Information Systems and Technology. And one of his key achievements is that he has managed to work with different clients across different industries in the continent and different sectors to strengthen their information security posture. And this is something that he's really proud of. Abdi, he's a certified PCP trainer. He's also an ISO 27001 lead implementer. He's a certified ethical hacker as well as a certified lead penetration testing professional, and has several certifications on networking, both on implementation and managing networks. So without much further ado, I would like to welcome Abdi to continue and take us right into the webinar. Karibu, Abdi.
All right. Thanks, Faith, for that introduction. So let's jump right into the webinar. So as Faith has introduced, today's webinar is all about understanding how we can strengthen the human firewall. So when you talk of the human firewall, what we are referring here to is our employees, right? So depending on how you look at it, our employees can be our biggest threat as an organization, and they can also be the best defenses that we have as an organization that can protect us from cyber threats that are out there, right? So how can we strengthen this human firewall that you're talking about, right? So primarily, we really need to focus on two things when you're looking into having a very strong firewall as far as the human element in security is concerned. That is, we need to continuously test our employees and staff regarding social engineering tests, right? So we really need to send them continuous phishing tests to see their level of awareness that they have, right? And on top of that, we also need to continuously train them, right? So this is something that is continuous and that doesn't stop, and that goes hand in hand, right? Continuous testing and also continuous training of our employees, right? So why strengthen the human firewall, right? So statistics show that 91% of successful data breaches start with a spear phishing attack. So this is the initial point of contact that hackers are using to infiltrate organizations, right? Also, 30% of data breaches are caused by repeat offenders in organizations. So what that means is the same guys that continuously expose organization to cyber threats, and that's why we are really advocating for continuous testing and continuous training of our staff. Also, 75% of companies who are hit with ransomware, they're running up-to-date antivirus and security software. So from that, what you can see is this is not only a technology problem, this is actually a human problem. It's a people's problem, right? And we really need to focus and invest resources in the human element in security, the same way we are doing for the technology bit, right? There's also rise in business email compromise and CEO fraud, right? And most often, such kind of attacks, they are perfectly curated attacks, right? They don't have any attachments or links. They don't have grammar errors and stuff like that. So what this tells you is hackers are upping their game. They're coming up with sophisticated ways of infiltrating organizations, and we really need to be ahead of them in terms of continuously testing our employees and continuously training them, right? So when you talk of business email compromise and CEO fraud, there's attacks like phishing scams that is perpetrated by hackers to now infiltrate organizations, and their main goal most of the time is to siphon money from the organization. So a typical CEO fraud case would be like a hacker purporting to be someone in the top of the organization, and they send an email to someone in the accounts for the finance department, and they're instructing them to send or wire some money to a particular bank account, right? So most often than not, when guys receive such kind of emails and communications, since it has that authority element coming from the top of the organization, they tend to fall for such scams, and organizations lose a lot of money as a result of that, right? Okay, so traditionally, as I've said, organizations, they usually focus on the technology stack, the technology layers, right? That's the traditional OSI model, right? So they invest in firewall solutions, they invest in intrusion detection systems, SIEM solutions, data loss prevention systems, firewalls, and all that, right? But when it comes to security awareness, right, that is something that becomes an afterthought, right? So they don't put much effort and emphasis on ensuring employees are trained, employees are tested, to now strengthen that human element in security, right? That's where KnowBe4 comes into play, right? KnowBe4 will really help your organization to now strengthen the 8th layer of security, that is the security awareness layer, and that's where our staff and our employees sit, right? So a brief introduction of KnowBe4. So KnowBe4 is the world's largest security awareness training and simulated phishing platform. And its main objective and its main goal is to help organizations manage the ongoing problem of social engineering, right? So when you talk of social engineering, you're basically talking about attacks that are perpetrated by hackers that mainly target the human element, right? This includes phishing attacks, smishing attacks, phishing, and you're going to look what that means, right? So KnowBe4's main mission is now to help organizations manage the risk associated and the threats associated with social engineering attacks, right? So this is a solution that has that clients have seen value in it, right? And it has been positioned as a leader the 3rd year in a row in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for security awareness computer-based training, right? So as you can see, it's been voted by clients that use and customers that use this solution, and they have really seen value in it, right? Moving forward, so we've implemented this tool for organizations to now revamp their security awareness program, implement the security awareness program so that they can see value in it, right? And when you're implementing this platform for clients, we most of the time start with doing a baseline phishing test, right? So in the baseline phishing test, what we are aiming at is now to get a picture of where the organization sits at as far as phishing attacks is concerned, right? So when you do the baseline phishing test, most of the time, the fish prawn percentage for organizations that we do the deployment for is most of the time above 25%, right? But then when we do trainings for them, when we do security awareness training content for their staff, 3 months down the line, that particular fish prawn percentage drops to less than half of the previous fish prawn percentage, right? And it's a great tool that will have a great return on investment on your organization, right? Because we say prevention is better than cure, right? So instead of waiting up to the time that you get hit and you spend a lot of time responding to information security incidents, rebuilding your network, restoring the servers and all that, you can take the precautionary measures of now training your last line of defense, that is the human element. Because what happens is when all the security layers are breached, the last line of defense are the human element, that's your staff and your employees. So that's why we really need to focus on that aspect, right? So before you actually start implementing a security awareness program, you need to understand where you are as an organization, right? Do you have a security awareness program in place, right? And if you have a security awareness program in place, do you know the maturity level of that security awareness program that you have in place, right? So the different maturity levels for security awareness program. Some organizations don't have any security awareness program in place, right? So they don't do trainings, they don't do simulated phishing tests, they don't test their stuff on security threats that are out there, right? Secondly, the second layer now is where you're doing security awareness as a result of compliance, right? So you're required by a compliance framework like PCI DSS or ISO 27001 that you do security awareness training, right? So you're doing it just to check the box, right? The third maturity level is where you are promoting awareness as an organization and you are focusing on changing the behaviors of your staff. The fourth maturity level for a security awareness program is where now you have a long-term strategy as an organization, and your main focus is to not only change the behavior of your employees, you're also focusing now on changing the overall culture of your organization, right? And the highest level of maturity is now the robust metric framework, where you are guided by metrics, right? So you have a view from the time that you started implementing the security awareness program, right? I started building ground out, and I had this percentage of fish prawn percentage, right? And 3 months down the line, I've done trainings, I've sensitized staff, and that particular fish prawn percentage drop. So you're guided by metrics, and that it also shows you baseline of where you fall among your peers in the industry, and that's something that KnowBe4 really prides itself in, right? So for us to run a successful security awareness program in an organization, we need to have certain elements in place so that we ensure this program it's an effective program that the organization see value in it, right? So the first thing you need to do is now have executive buy-in and support, right? Right from the planning, right? You need to communicate to them that we are implementing a security awareness program and that you need their support, because most of the time such projects fail as a result of not having executive buy-in, right? So when you have an executive buy-in from the top of the organization, the next thing you need to do is to frame the security awareness program with a positive tone. So what that means is you don't shame employees when they open click links that are in phishing emails and all that, right? You don't victimize them, and you involve everyone in the organization, all the departments. It doesn't become something that just stays with the information security or the ICT department. You need to involve all the departments to ensure that this program rather, becomes successful for your organization, right? You need to test your employees and staff frequently. Send them frequent phishing simulation tests. It can be monthly or at least it has to be quarterly, right? So that we get a real picture of where the organization's vulnerabilities lies, right? So the reason why we do simulated phishing tests is we are preparing organizations and also the staff for uncertain times, right? So if you think of how pilots are trained, right? Pilots, before they go to to fly, they're given flight simulators, right, where they have a simulation of how things are when they now take the plane and go up, right? So in the flight simulators, some of the scenarios that pilots undergo is now when the pressure drops in the cabin, right? That trigger, that response is the same response they'll have in the real life now when they're flying. We need to devise that same methodology for our staff. We need to send them simulated phishing tests, USB tests, and all that, so that when they are faced with the real threats, they have a clear way of responding to such threats, right? You also need to be intentional about your post-click landing pages. So what this means is you send out a phishing test to your staff, but they're in the dark. They don't know if this is a real attack, this is a simulated one. So you need to tell them that, you know what, the email that you opened, the attachment that you downloaded, the application that you installed, that was a simulated phishing test that we did. And these are the things that you should have looked for. These are the red flags. And going forward, be careful like that, right? But if you put them in the dark, then your program will not be as effective as you want it to be, right? You also need to do assessments to get a picture of where your strengths and weaknesses lie as an organization. So these assessments can be like assessments around password security, mobile device security, authentications, right? Using multi-factor authentication and all that. So that when you are doing your trainings in the next step, you come up with relevant, interesting, and variety content, right? You don't just roll out content anyhowly, right? So that's why you need to do assessments to understand where the organization's weaknesses and strengths lie. Also, the content that you are deploying needs to be interesting. That's where KnowBe4 comes in. It has very interactive content that is not boring like the traditional security awareness content that guys are put in a training room. They're shown PowerPoint slides, but the trainer doesn't have a visibility of, is this training that I'm doing really effective? Are guys retaining the content, right? And are they actually applying these best practices I'm training them on in their day-to-day lives during work, right? Relevant content, you have different departments in your organization. You have guys with different competence levels. So you deploy your security awareness content, your videos, your games, and all the interactive content, having that in mind, that everyone is not the same, and that you deploy content customized for them, right? So this is where we talk about competency, right? Technical guys in ICT, in the information security department, then they have an advantage of knowing what kind of threats are out there and how they can protect themselves from the threats. But someone in finance or HR may not have that competency. That's why we're saying we need to measure this competency and train your employees based on their competency level. Lastly, metrics. So what this means is you have a visibility from the time that you started the security awareness program. You are at this level. 6 months down the line, you've done trainings, you've done assessments, you've done tests and all that. And your fish prone percentage has, for instance, dropped and all that. So, and this is something that you can share with the different departments in the organization and with your management, so that they see value in your program, right? So at the end of the day, we have now implemented our security awareness program. It's up and running. What do we want to achieve, right? The first thing that you need to achieve are employees who are situationally aware of the situation they are in, right? There are guys who, when they receive emails, they don't just download the attachment or click the link or download the malicious application. They think before they click, right? They are, for the security awareness training, when you implement it, what you need also to achieve is staff taking responsibility for what they do, right? They know they have privileged access to the company premises. They know they have access to data and systems. For instance, the IT guys have a privileged access to databases, servers, and systems. They know their responsibility of protecting those systems and data. And they don't just leave that responsibility to IT, because when we work with organizations to implement security awareness training, this security awareness thing is framed as something that only sits with the ICT department or the information security department. Everyone should take responsibility, because what we are dealing with is information and data, and everyone in their day-to-day operations handles data, log into the systems and all that, right? Also, what we intend to achieve at the end of the day is also organizations that or staff rather, that report incidents immediately when they detect incidents, right? So a lot of organizations are breached, but they don't know they are breached. Reason being, staff downloaded a malicious application, his computer was compromised, but then they don't report it, right? As a result of the fear of being framed as the person who let the attackers in, right? That's why we are saying that you need to frame the tone to be a positive tone. You're not shaming guys for reporting incidents, for failing rather, phishing test and all that, right? And lastly, we are looking at staff who always follow the company policies and procedures. So KnowBe4 has this functionality where you can manage your company policies, you can manage your company procedures, and you can track who's actually aware of these policies, who's reading them, who's accepting the provisions of the policies, right? So let's now see how KnowBe4 can assist us as an organization in achieving these 5 things that we talked about, right? So I'll just dive right into the KnowBe4 console. So I'll share my screen. Yeah. Right. So this is the KnowBe4 dashboard. KnowBe4 is a cloud-based solution. So to start with, we'll look at the dashboard. So the dashboard to start with has the organizational risk score, where it gives you a picture or a score of the risk that your organization is facing, right? And you're going to see what constitutes this risk score shortly. You'll also get a view of the phishing test that you've done, right? So this is what I was telling you about. When you start doing the baseline test, most of the time, the phish prone percentage is very high, more than 30% most of the times. But then when you do trainings, when you do assessments, when you do sensitization to your staff, that particular percentage will drop, right? It will also show you categories of the kind of tests that you did, right? It will tell you this were the number of guys who clicked, guys who replied to phishing tests, guys who opened attachments, guys who reported, guys who entered data such as their usernames and password in the simulated phishing tests, and all that, right? Also, this cool feature that it also has is now doing the benchmark test, right? So let's say you are in the consulting industry, in the education, government, so it has a multitude of industries where you can benchmark yourself at, right? So if you're in the banking industry, for instance, it shows you that data from KnowBe4 customers in the banking industry shows that the phish prone percentage for this is at 10.9%, and then here it shows you your phish prone percentage. So these are the metrics that you're talking about that you can now use to come up with continuous improvement strategies as an organization, right? There's also this feature called Phish Alert button, which you can integrate with your email systems, Outlook, Office 365, and most popular email systems. We've seen organizations struggle with how they handle email security incidents, right? Someone receives a spam, someone receives a malicious phishing email in their email, but then the way of managing this whole process is very ad hoc, and there's no standardized way of managing email security incidents, right? So this is where the Phish Alert button comes in, right? It gives you a standardized way of users to report simulated and non-simulated phishing emails. So when a user reports a simulated phishing email, they'll be given a congratulatory message saying that, you know what, you did a good job. You reported a simulated phishing email, and you should continue doing that. But then when they report an unsimulated email, IT will receive a notification, right, that so-and-so has reported a simulated, non-simulated phishing email, which is a real threat, and that they now start their incident response process, right? Having talked about the dashboard, there's this feature called Automated Security Awareness Program, right? So we've seen most of the time, organization staff can be overstretched, so they won't have the much needed time and resources to sit down and implement a robust security awareness program, right? So there's this feature called Automated Security Awareness Program, where you can automate your security awareness program or KnowBe4. So it asks you basic questions about the organization, and it gives you a clearly laid out roadmap, right, of how now you plan and implement your security awareness program, and it also ties those tasks for the program with data so that you can track, right? So it really makes the work of planning and implementing your security awareness program very easy, right? When it comes to managing your users, you basically have two options. You can import your users manually, or if you want to make your work easier, you can integrate with your Active Directory environment, right? So in Active Directory environment, you have a single place of managing your users, and KnowBe4 will automatically synchronize with the Active Directory environment, right? So from the users section, you can drill down and see specifics about each and every user, right? So for instance, this user has a risk score of 10.3%. What this means, there are different things that go into calculating that particular risk score, right? The job function of the user. So if you're a CEO, your risk score will be higher, right? Because you might have access to sensitive data and systems. If you are the IT administrator, your risk score might be higher than someone who's just the receptionist, right? Who might not have access to all systems. They don't have privileged access to the systems. Behavior. So when you talk of behavior, is this person someone who always clicks on links? They download all the nasty viruses. They just open attachments that are malicious. It takes also that into consideration, the behavior of the person. Is this person someone who does their trainings on time on the platform and all that? When it comes to exposure, is this person's email address in data breaches? So it takes all these factors and elements into consideration. We're now calculating your risk score. And then now, based on this risk score, you can now devise methodologies of training this person and putting them at par with other guys in the organization who are following best practices. And then you can see the risk score of that person, the trend of the risk score of that person. Like also you can see the fish prone percentage of the person, which is at 75%. They've been clicking on phishing links and opening attachments. They have been entering data like passwords in the phishing simulation test, and you get a whole event of how the person, the staff's activities on the tool, right? Having talked about that, there's also this feature called security roles, right? So the view that you're seeing right now on the platform is the administrator view, right? But then you might have someone else in your organization who will need a specific view of the platform, right? A good example is now the HR department. The HR department just needs to see the training reports, who's doing the trainings, who has not completed their trainings and all that. So you just give them that specific view of the tool, right? Now let's talk of how you do phishing simulation tests on the platform, right? So I'll open one of the campaigns that has already been deployed and basically show you one of the ways how the campaigns will look like after you have deployed, right? So from here you can see that the phishing test was sent to 537 recipients, 149 opened, 149 clicked, 5 guys opened the attachments, 8 staff entered data that can be there, usernames and passwords. One of the staff who's received that particular email had vulnerable plugins in their browser, and 5 guys reported the phishing test that was done, right? So that is the kind of the report that you will get on the tool, right? So when you're deploying a phishing campaign, it can be something that is one time, or it's something that is continuous. So you can schedule it and have it run monthly or quarterly. So you just schedule it and you let it run, right? So when you're deploying a campaign, you basically need 3 things: who you're deploying it to, that's where you have your users synchronized with AD and grouping them into different departments. What you're sending, now that is where the email templates comes in, right? KnowBe4 has more than 4,000 email templates that is currently, and this figure is figure that is continuously updated, right? And what it does is, when it sees the bad guys, the hackers using a specific phishing template to infiltrate organization, they now incorporate it into the tool. For instance, right now, we've seen hackers using a lot of templates, a lot of phishing scams related to COVID-19 and coronavirus, right? This KnowBe4 automatically incorporates that into the platform and have organizations use it to test their employees so that they can see if this was a real thing, how vulnerable are we as an organization, right? So when employees open the attachment or click on the link, where are they taken to? So this is where the landing pages comes in, right? So the landing pages, there are a multitude of landing pages that you can choose from, customize them, use the already inbuilt ones. So when someone clicks, for instance, on a simulated phishing test, they'll be told that, you know what you did was you failed a test, and these are the things that you should have looked for, right? You should have looked for the from email address, the subject of the email, the link was not taking you to the correct website or login page that it was supporting to be taking you to, right? So that's how the landing pages of the tool looks like, right? So now let's talk about the trainings that we have on the tool. So on Modso, KnowBe4 has a lot of training content in the form of training modules, games, videos, newsletters, posters, and assessments, right? And this content is of different topics, right? You can see content around CEO fraud, content around malware, phishing, ransomware. You can also see content related to compliance frameworks. So if you are, for instance, compliant with PCI DSS, and there are specific requirements of PCI DSS to include in your security awareness training, you can find content around that. You can find organizational content that is department specific, like HR, and then we have the popular topics for security awareness, like email security, incident response, social media, working remotely, and Wi-Fi security and all that, right? And this is content that is continuously updated, right? Like for instance, this one is a content that talks about internet security when you work from home. So in light of the current situation, organizations have sent their staff to work from home, right? Most of the organizations were not prepared for this pandemic, right? So this content basically takes them through how to securely work from home and the best practices they can look out for when interacting with the company systems, right? There are also movie-like, movie-like content like this one, which you can now put in your break room and guys can binge over during breaks, like lunch breaks, that you can put in the screens in your department. So having talked about the Modsto content, the way you enroll guys in the trainings is now by creating training campaigns the same way you create phishing campaigns, right? So if, for instance, there's this training that was enrolled for the sales guys. When you open it, you'll get a view of how users are doing their training, right? So for instance, this training has 28 users. Out of that, 9 users have not completed their trainings. And the good thing about it is some training contents have assessments at the end, whereby you'll be shown a video, someone will train you on a specific security awareness content, and now you'll be given a small quiz to see if you're actually paying attention, and now you're retaining the content that you have been trained on. And based on that, you'll be given a pass or fail status from the tool, right? We also talked about assessments, right, to gauge your organization's strengths and weaknesses, right? So KnowBe4 has this specific content meant to assess the organization's strengths and weaknesses, right? So there's this content called Security Awareness Proficiency Assessment. And what it does is basically allow organizations to send assessment content to their staff. And out of that, we'll get a picture of how you are performing as an organization in different aspects of security. Like for instance, you can see email security, I'm at 75%, that is not bad. But something like social media security and password authentications and mobile devices, you're really performing poorly on that, right? And that you need to up your game and send security awareness content related to this content that you're doing poorly on to your staff, right? So if you want to deploy content based on social media security, you just click on it. It will automatically take you to Modsto, and you'll see content that is related to social media security, which you can now take and train your employees on, right? Also, there's content to now gauge the culture of the organization, right? Just because I've done an assessment, just because I've gone through a training on KnowBe4, for instance, doesn't mean that I care about now following those practices, right? So that's where the security culture survey comes in, whereby you send some assessments to your staff, and out of that, you'll get a picture of the attitudes, the behavior of staff, their compliance, the norms and the responsibilities of staff. This way, whenever you are deploying your content and coming up with strategies to up your security awareness game, you have a picture in your head of how the culture of your organization is, right? Also, one of the things that we intended to achieve, we said was organizations, or rather staff who follow the policies of the organization, right? We've seen organizations struggle with how they manage their policies, making sure staff are aware of the policies. And so this is where KnowBe4 comes in and helps you manage that problem of managing organizational policies in an effective manner, right? So what you can do, you can enroll users in policy campaigns, right? And out of that, you'll be able to see who's doing their policies, who's read the policy, have they signed. They can actually append their online signature over KnowBe4, so that you don't have to have physical documents, physical policies and procedures that guys need to sign physically, right? So the training view that you're seeing right now is the administrator view, right? So this is the view that users will see when they log into the platform, right? They'll see the kind of trainings that they have been enrolled in. Have they completed? They have pending trainings and all that. It also has a leaderboard where it pits organizations against, different departments or groups in your organization against each other. For instance, there's the Avengers group here, and the Avengers group has 93% training completion. That means they have been completed their trainings on time. So it creates this sense of competition in the organization, and everyone is looking forward now to now complete their trainings on time. Users can also unlock badges, right? So this is where we are talking about. In a security awareness training, you also need to incentivize your guys who do good work, who complete trainings, who report phishings and all that. So this is where the badges and the digital badges come in, right? Also, if you have an already learning management system in your organization and you need to use this content, you can download the KnowBe4 content and put them in your learning management system. Or if you have your own content that you need to put on KnowBe4, that's something that you can do. You can upload your SCORM or your video content on the platform and have users do that particular content, right? It also has a capability for doing phishing tests. So phishing is more or less the same as phishing, but now attackers use voice media. They call your employees, and that way they want to get sensitive information and data from your employees. So you can do those tests on KnowBe4 and then see the vulnerability level of the organization as far as phishing tests and phishing attacks are concerned. You can also do USB tests. So you've seen organizations getting hit as a result of just a simple USB drive that was left in the lobby or the break room. Someone picked it up, they plugged it into their laptop, and then the next thing you know is all your files are encrypted, you're hit with a ransomware attack, right? So you can do a test in your organization and then get a picture of how many guys are failing this test that you are doing. And based on that, you do customized training, like a USB security training to those guys who failed the test. Like for instance, this one, you see someone took a USB drive with a Word document which had macro enabled. It shows you the IP address, the location of that computer, the name of the computer, and the person who took that particular USB drive. And that way you enroll them in a training related to USB drives, right? And also, let me talk about the reporting section, right? Now that you've seen all the features of the tool, you may need to generate reports and all that. So the reporting section ties the different functionalities of the tool into a single place, and you can get reports that are related to each other, like the fish prone percentage reports over a period of time for a specific department, for a specific individual, the types of failures. You can get reports around trainings, who's doing their trainings, the overall training coverage of the organization and all that. This way, you will be able to share your these particular reports with the different departments in your organization, right? Also, we've seen that there's a functionality called the fish alert button, which basically makes your work easier as far as now reporting and handling email security incidents is concerned, right? But most of the time, when users report these emails, it ends up in the inboxes of the Security Operations Center or the ICT department. So you don't have a centralized way of tracking, of seeing what is happening in your organization as far as email security threats are concerned. So there's this feature on KnowBe4 as well, which is an add-on called PhishER. It really makes your work easier by handling email security incidents, right? So it even uses machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence models to now categorize emails into clean emails, spam emails, and threat emails. And the way it does is integrates with threat intelligence feeds from other organizations and other security vendors. This way it categorizes those emails into these categories, and it actually helps you automate your email security incident response process, right? Lastly, the tool also comes up with free tools that you can take care of that will basically help you see how vulnerable you are on your systems. There's this one called password exposure test, which you can install on your Active Directory, and it tells you which of your users are using weak passwords, which of your users have emails compromised and appear in data breaches. It has one called Mail Security Assessment, where you can test your email systems and see what kind of threats can go through your email systems and your email security devices. Can your email security system or your email system block a Word document with a macro and all that, right? So there are all these free tools that you can also take advantage of on the platform, right? So let me jump right back into the slides. So that's how the platform looks like, the different functionalities it has, right? So the other thing that you also need to be wary of in this current situation that you are in right now is that attackers are attacking organizations. They're hitting organizations very hard as a result of the current situation that you are in. Because a lot of organizations are not prepared for such scenario. To something that just came surprisingly, right? So we've seen increase in COVID-19 related phishing scams that purport to be from health organizations like Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization, and a lot of employees in organizations are falling for those scams. We've seen also increase in domain registrations that are related to COVID-19. So someone is registering a domain that looks like it's from the Ministry of Health, right? And they send out emails to organizations. And a lot of organizations are falling for this kind of attacks, right? There's also increase as a result of shadow IT. So organizations have opened up their network. When users are on your network, you have a visibility, right, of what is happening in your network, who's installed malicious software. But now that everyone is working remotely, most organizations don't have that visibility of now seeing what is happening in users' machines. Are they downloading attachments that are malicious and all that? So the best thing that we can do in these tough times is now to train our employees to make smarter security decisions, right? Because we don't have the much visibility that we used to have when they were inside our the perimeters of our networks, right? So as Sentinel Africa, we can help you strengthen a human firewall. So we are partners with KnowBe4. You can talk to us and we can give you a free proof of concept that has free phishing test that can give you a baseline score of how vulnerable your organization is to social engineering test. And that way we can help you develop a business case that you can now use and present to your management, for instance, to get buy-in, to now invest in now having a robust security awareness program. And also we have some organizations that we worked with that have outsourced their security awareness program to us. So we are the ones managing for them from the time that they start planning up to the time that they implement, right? So that is the end of the presentation. We are available on our social media channels. You can get in touch with us through email, phones. You can get in touch with us through our website and also on our social media channels. Yeah. So I'll hand over to Faith to now see if we have any questions from the audience.
Great. Thank you very much, Abdi, for that very interesting session. We have questions coming in and we'll just jump right into the Q&A session right now. And the first question comes to you is, what are the main security threats a small company may face that may warrant information security awareness?
Okay. So for small organizations, most of the time, you'll find that they're really focusing on now, what is it called? Providing services to their clients that relates to their core businesses. So they don't have that specific person in IT or in the organization that handles information security awareness. So most of the time they're resource constrained. And also you'll find that staff are not being trained to now detect and report security incidents relating to information security, right? So basically, those are some of the threats that organizations who are, especially small organizations, face as a result of not having a robust security awareness program in place, not training their employees, because most of the time they focus on getting their products out there, getting their services out there. So security becomes an afterthought, something that they'll start remembering after they get attacked by hackers and all that.
All right, great. Then also there's another question here. So it goes, what is the costing or licensing of the solution, A, and B? And once procured, is the tool administration ownership purely by the customer? So question A on what is the costing or licensing of the solution. So this, Abdi, you can go ahead.
Okay, so as from the slide you can see, the tool comes in different packages, from silver to diamond. So the diamond feature has, the diamond package has all the features of the tool. It has the USB drive test, security logs, and most of the features, basically all the features that I showed you. In terms of pricing, it comes per user, per year. And then in terms of the administration of the tool, if you like the partner to help you configure and basically make the initial deployment and implementation successful, have them have access to their tool, or if it's something that you want to do it on your own, then you can have complete ownership of the console on your own.
Okay, great, that's fine. I can also see a raised hand from Gladys. Gladys, you're unmuted. Do you have a question?
Also, to add on to that, in regards to specific pricing, it all depends on the package that you've chosen and the number of staff that you like to, basically the number of employees in the organization. So what you can do, you can basically get in touch with us and we'll have a customized pricing that we can send it to you.
All right. Let's look at one last question here. So what would you recommend in terms of reporting to management on awareness?
Okay, so as I've said in the presentation, there are different components that you can report on, right? As a basic reporting metric, what you can do is do an industry benchmark, right? Do the initial baseline test for your organization, right? So from the baseline test, you'll get something called a fishbone percentage, and you can benchmark that with your industry peers. And based on that, you track that particular fishbone percentage 3 months down the line after you've done trainings, or 6 months down the line after you've done training, and share that with your management. You can also share training metrics regarding trainings, metrics regarding guys who are failing, who are not completing their trainings, who are failing USB test, who are failing phishing test, or failing phishing test, and all that.
Okay. Let's just take one more. From Mary, she's asking, how are users using the dark web covered by KnowBe4? It's an interesting question.
Sorry?
How are users using the dark web covered by KnowBe4?
Okay, so in regards to that, I'm not quite getting the question, but what I think she means is, how is KnowBe4, how will KnowBe4 make companies aware of staff who have been breached, like whose information has been found in security breaches, right? So one of the things that I showed you on the tool is that functionality where you can do an assessment in your organization using the free tools provided by your organization, and it will give you a picture, basically a list of users whose passwords or whose emails have been found in data breaches in the dark web.
Okay. Yes, absolutely, Abdi. I think you've covered that question well. So there's also another question from Misty.
Mhm. Yes. So I've actually seen that question
Hello.
from Miss. Yes.
Hi, so I am an IT manager also at an insurance company, and I just want to say what you showed us here, will really make our lives as IT managers really very easy, or what you showed us does really look simple to use. And I just have one question, because sometimes we have a lot of technologies, but all the reporting comes from different platforms. So are you saying with this platform, we can do the training and the phishing and the reporting all from one platform?
Yes, absolutely. So the platform does all the features that we talked about. And from an administrator perspective, you'll have access to all those features from a single pane of glass. So you don't have to go to this tool to get reporting for phishing. You don't have to go to LMS to get reports for training. So all that is viewed from a single pane of glass, where you can see the reports from across your security awareness metrics, your phishing test, your training test, and all that. So you'll have a single console where you can see all the reports.
Okay.
Right. Also, I can see there was a person who had a question around how can the tool, how can we prove that the tool was of, that it's basically bringing about return on investment for organization. So there's actually a case study that was done by KnowBe4. There was this company that was hit by ransomware attack as a result of user downloading malicious attachment, right? And the malicious attachment, when they downloaded and opened it, the user's computer was encrypted, and the next thing you know is the whole network was encrypted, right? So KnowBe4 did this case study for this company, and did basically calculations to now see if they had security awareness program in place. They were training their users. They were phishing their users to see the vulnerability level. This could have been prevented. And this goes back to the point that I was saying. You really need to focus on now being proactive, preventing the such things from happening, rather than now becoming reactive, right? Because the cost that you will spend in now bringing back servers, cleaning, disinfecting the whole network, it will really be very much higher compared to now. If you could have just invested in now ensuring the users are trained, your users are getting phished, you're sensitizing them continuously.
All right. Thank you, Abdi, for that. So I think with that, I can't see any other questions. We only have one last question from Alexander, who's asking how frequently you conduct these webinars, and if these materials will be available after the webinar. So yes, we'll have a recording of the webinar, which will be shared out for reference. And then also we plan on having further webinars on a weekly basis, and we'll send out notifications on our channels as is being shown on the page, just to show to notify us whenever there is an upcoming webinar for everyone to register. Okay. So I don't see any other question, and unless there's someone else with something to comment on, we'd like to then end the webinar here, and thank you very much for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day.